Well, it now seems certain that building a Ram Mandir at Ayodhya is going to be a key election issue for the 2019 polls. And the BJP may well use Ayodhya even earlier for the Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh Assembly elections in December this year. A decision by the Supreme Court today has ensured that the case of whether or not to build a Ram Mandir in Ayodhya will begin hearings on the 29th of October. A majority decision by the Supreme Court today set aside the last hurdle before the case can start.
A verdict on a seemingly unrelated matter on whether a mosque is integral to prayer in Islam may have churned the political waters for the 2019 elections.
The Supreme Court had to consider today whether to revisit its own 1994 verdict that mosque was not integral to prayer.
The Muslim petitioners in the Ayodhya case had argued that prayer in a mosque was essential to Islam and that the court should set aside its own verdict or refer it to a larger bench. They claimed that the 1994 ruling had adversely affected their stand in the Ayodhya dispute. Had the court agreed with them, it might have delayed this decision in the Ayodhya case beyond the 2019 elections.
But the Supreme Court, or at least the majority of the three-judge bench, rejected the petition. Now hearings for the main Ayodhya case will begin towards the end of October, raising the possibility of a verdict before 2019 elections. News that the BJP and the RSS have welcomed.
जो लोग इस विवाद का समाधान नहीं चाह रहे हैं, जो जानबूझ करके देश के अंदर विवाद की स्थिति और न्यूसेंस क्रिएट करना चाहते हैं, वे लोग कहीं न कहीं इस मामले में रोड़े अटकाने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं। आज का माननीय उच्चतम न्यायालय का जो आदेश है वो बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है।
हिंदुओं के लिए को राम की जन्मभूमि है, लेकिन मुस्लिम तबके के लिए वह कोई महत्वपूर्ण ऐतिहासिक धार्मिक स्थल नहीं है, क्योंकि उनका जो ऐतिहासिक महत्वपूर्ण धार्मिक स्थल है वो मक्का मदीना है। तो इसलिए यह बिल्कुल भी आस्थाओं का टकराव नहीं है।
Interestingly, Rahul Gandhi in Madhya Pradesh visited a Ram Mandir as well, with news of the Congress's Ram Yatra in the state planned soon.
That it is a little ironical and funny as to how something which is actually restating a continuing status quo of 24 odd years is leading to so much halchal, and don't mix up such a degree of politics with it.
In their 2:1 verdict, Justice Bhushan and the Chief Justice of India, while rejecting the petition, said, all religions, all mosques, temples and churches are equal, and that the 1994 verdict did not, as the petitioners claimed, have any impact on the main Ayodhya case. As they put it, issues framed in the suit, that's the main Ayodhya case, are different from 1994 verdict. Justice Nazir, the third judge on the bench, dissented, saying the case should be heard by a larger bench. He said questionable observations in the 1994 verdict has been done without comprehensive examination. Those questionable observations permeated the suit judgment. Now, as the court readies for the final hearing, the task is enormous.
The Allahabad High Court order, which had partitioned the land three ways, with 2/3 going to the Hindu groups and a third to the Muslim side, ran into close to 8,000 pages with thousands of pieces of evidence. Whether the Supreme Court is able to sift through the arguments and counter-arguments to deliver a verdict before May next year will play a key role in the battle for 2019. With Nimisha, this is Arunachalam Vaidyanathan, NDTV.
Well, joining us tonight to talk about the legal and, more importantly, the political implications of this order today, here in the studio with us, we have Mr. Deshratan Nigam, who's a political analyst, Aarti Jairat, senior journalist, Mr. Kamal Farooqi of the Muslim Personal Law Board, and senior advocate of the Supreme Court, Mr. Dushyant Dave, joining us tonight. And Mr. Dave, let me take this to you first. None of us can really sit here and guess how long the court might take to actually hear the Ayodhya, the main case now, the Ram Mandir case. But in your experience as a Supreme Court lawyer, are we looking at a matter of months before we come to a verdict?
Well, first and foremost, before I answer that question, let me tell you one thing, that today's decision by the Supreme Court, it's not only surprising, but it is, I would say, unfortunate. I will give you 4 examples where this very bench presided by the Chief Justice in this 1 year has referred matters after matters to the Constitution bench. There was first a matter whether a Parsi woman, when she marries a Hindu, converts to Hinduism or not. It was referred to a constitution bench. The second matter, which was decided yesterday on adultery, section 497, was referred to the constitution bench by the Chief Justice Mishra himself. The third was the Sabrimala matter, where judges felt that it is an important matter, and both Chief Justice Mishra and Justice Ashok Bhushan were party to that order, and they said it's important, therefore it should be referred. Fourth, the issue relating to the promotion for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and reservation was referred to 5-judge bench. So every important matter has been referred to 5-judge bench by the very same Honorable Chief Justice and Justice Bhushan on 2 occasions, sitting with him out of those 4. Now, if this was so, they themselves have today in their order said, Justice Bhushan very rightly says in his order, that this is also a very important matter. He says the issues which have arisen in these appeals are no doubt important issues which have to be heard and decided. Now, if you say that they are important for other matters to refer to larger bench, why not this? Let me say, second, 3 times the Supreme Court has heard the matter relating to this very dispute. In 94, when the order under presidential reference was made by constitution bench, then when Supreme Court transferred all cases, again it was referred to the constitution bench, and in 2003, where Farooqi's case, Ismail Farooqi's case, this very matter was heard by a bench of 5 judges. Now, what is troublesome is, Nidhi, and kindly give me 1 or 2 minutes more, is this, that the way this matter was, fixed for hearing was, I would say, really surprising. 3 times Dr. Subramanian Swamy, who is not a party to the matter, mentioned the matter, and 3 times Supreme Court declined to fix it, twice telling him that you are not a party, you are merely an intervener, we won't fix it. Yet, on the 4th attempt, Chief Justice Kher said, all right, I will fix it for you. And he constituted this bench of Chief Justice Mishra, Justice Bhushan and Justice
Nazir. It is the court's prerogative, isn't it, to decide when it wants to hear a matter?
No. Let me tell you one thing. Every judge is, of the Supreme Court is a respected judge. I have no doubt Justice Bhushan and Chief Justice Mishra are judges of great eminence, and they have to be respected. Issue is not that. Issue is that a matter as fundamental and as serious to the very fabric of this country is concerned, if that is not to be referred to a constitution bench, while referring whether a Parsi woman becomes a Hindu, or whether adultery should be referred, or woman should enter Sabrimala, I think they have done a great disservice to the institution, because
Mr.
it
Dave,
will
let
send
me take what you
extremely
said.
wrong signals.
Okay, you're saying it should have been referred to a larger bench. In fact, that was a plea that was made in court as well, that even the title suit should have been referred to a larger bench. That was also declined, and that has come out in the detailed judgment later today, Mr. Nigam. But why do you think that today's order is actually a good one, contrary to what Mr. Dave feels?
I think there's some confusion when Justice Ashok Bhushan says that this appeal is important. He is not referring to the interim application on which the orders have been passed, but the title suit appeal, which is pending. And therefore, I think there's some confusion in the mind of Mr. Dave. And this appeal is to be heard, that is what he said, as soon as possible. And therefore, it is an interim application on which this order has been passed. So that has not been referred. They wanted Ismail Farooqi to be reviewed and referred. That has been clearly declined. And Ismail Farooqi was very...
No, but should it have been referred to a bigger bench, an issue as sensitive as this?
No. See, there's some kind of a confusion. The Ismail Farooqi was very, very clear that in the event of land acquisition, because it was acquisition of certain lands in Ayodhya Act of 1993, which was upheld, and now it was only for the purposes of acquisition. They did not make any distinction between mosque, temple, church.
They reiterated that today.
So they said in the sovereign or the state can acquire the land for the specific purposes that that land acquisition.
So you're saying there was no need for it to go to a bigger bench?
No,
and that
not
this was
at all.
Clear.
And that is what they have said. So they have treated they have not made mosque exclusively. dealt with mosques exclusively. It is for religious places, all the three
But
religious
let me come
places
to the
that they are
political
talking
question,
about.
because Aarti Jairath, what this means is that the Ram Mandir then becomes front and center of the 2019 campaign. And do you believe that if we do get a verdict before the general election, and we don't know whether we will or we won't, maybe we do, that it helps the BJP? Or does it help them anyway, because the issue is back on the center stage?
You see, Nidhi, I think the BJP itself realizes that unless they can actually start construction of the temple, they cannot benefit electorally from this issue. Which is why, if you notice recently, they've been, rather silent on it. Even at the recent BJP National Executive meeting, it was hardly mentioned. They talked about urban Naxals and other things, but they did not talk about the Ram Mandir movement, building the temple. The fact is that I think people on the ground feel that the BJP has been promising a temple since the 1990s.
So until you actually put a brick there.
Unless you put a brick there, who's going to believe them? So that's why this can become an issue if the court actually comes out with a verdict before the elections and clears the way for a temple to be built there. Then certainly I think it gives the BJP campaign a huge boost. But if the court does not come out with a verdict, or if the court comes out with a verdict that goes against this, then then the BJP campaign, is sort of blown to pieces.
I just want to ask, since all of us sitting here follow politics so closely, Amir Raza Hussain, how much do you think the Ram Temple matters today as an issue? I mean, at some level, obviously it does, because the BJP keeps talking about it from time to time. And as I've been saying, Rahul Gandhi, has now become a Shiv Bhakt and a Ram Bhakt, and, is doing a sort of a soft Hindutva. And obviously that means that there is a certain vote that he's trying to appeal to. So therefore, will this issue matter? Could it be a game-changing issue?
So, you see, I think if a judgment comes out for the Ram Mandir or against the Ram Mandir, it will be a huge boost to the BJP either way. If it comes for the Ram Mandir, BJP will say, look, we promised you this and we've delivered this. If it comes against the Ram Mandir, BJP and the RSS will say that, look, all along we have been saying that this is not a matter of law, this is a matter of faith, and therefore we have to now get a two-third majority in both the houses so we can change the constitution to get a Ram Mandir. So either way, chit bhi inki, pat bhi inki, either way it will be a huge election issue for the BJP if the judgment comes out. A few Congress lawyers earlier had said that perhaps this is not the time for the judgment to come and it should be postponed after the 2019 elections. Makes a lot of sense, because you don't want a general election, a huge general election, to be focused on a Supreme Court judgment on the Ram Mandir. There are so many hundreds of other issues on which voting must take place, on issues for the Congress, for the BJP, for a combined opposition, for whatever have you. But it cannot just shrink itself to one Supreme Court issue on the Ram Mandir. And I think it is very, very important that the decision of the Ram Mandir comes after the 2019 election.
Well,
because then it will give us 3 years, 4 years, 5 years
to process
to
it.
live with
Before
that,
Mr. Farooqi,
to live with that
before I come
judgment.
to Mr. Farooqi, Mr. Nigam wants to answer that.
See, let us be very clear. Let us not drag Supreme Court into politics. Supreme Court does not bother which political party is going to benefit or which will lose. It is going to deliver a judgment purely based on law.
Of course not.
So therefore, to say that Supreme Court should hear this way before 2019, after 29, would be pulling Supreme Court and politicizing
but would you
it.
admit that if the judgment, whichever way it goes, does come before the general election, that it helps the BJP?
See, that the time would say.
It would be better if it came before the election.
See,
I
no.
mean, you're a political commentator.
Let me tell you, Supreme Court will follow its own timeline, and it will deliver a judgment irrespective of 2019 elections.
Of course.
And obviously,
of course.
why?
However,
why?
they must
why?
keep in
Let me
mind
say,
what is going on in the country.
And why BJP would be helped here? Reason being, Congress is blowing hot and cold at the same time. it uses its legal lawyers, lawyer leaders in the court to politicize the matter and to delay the entire verdict, which is, if this application had not been there, probably we would have been hearing the verdict about Ram Temple by now. Because of this, it's got delayed. So its leaders, on the other hand, are trying to be Ram Bhakt and Shiv Bhakt, but the other set of lawyer leaders are saying something else in the court. So that hypocrisy is also being brought out in the public domain.
I think
so
that's not fair.
So
why, Mr. Hussain?
Therefore, that hypocrisy has fallen very flat on the ground so far as Congress is concerned.
Amir Raza Hussain, 1 second. I want Mr. Kamal Farooqui here to weigh in on this.
I'm really amazed by my friend is saying hypocrisy. In fact, I personally feel that is what actually hypocrisy is going on, because the whole issue by RSS, Mohan Bhagwatji and other people, I will refer Dr. Subramanian's name at the last only, all these people are being utilizing it for their political games only. That's what actually is happening. Now, I'm not going into that aspect at all, because Amir Bhai has very rightly explained the whole thing. I would only go by the technicality and legality of the whole thing. Why, in fact, we had raised this issue? Because
had you not raised it because you wanted the verdict to be delayed?
No, not delayed. Because we wanted, because this is very, very crucial. This is my fundamental right, the constitutional right, and this is not going to affect me only. It is going to affect all the members.
Why did you remember this constitutional right 25 years after the
No, because this is for the first time it has come to the knowledge. First time it has come to the court.
Ignorance,
please.
Ignorance of law is no excuse.
No, I'm not saying ignore. I'm saying for the first time we got this opportunity, because this judgment was done at that particular point of time. It has been used in 2010 also, because one of the judges has...
But you could have gone and appealed against it in 1995.
There was no need of appeal, in fact, at that particular point of time.
But if it's on the matter of principle, you could have. I am saying you may have had political reasons to want to delay the verdict, which may be valid.
This judgment, this in fact has come now. As far as the hearing before the Supreme Court, as far as this matter is concerned, title suit is concerned, it has come now. And our grievance was that first decide about this, because in the judgment itself it has been said without even referring to the religiosity of the whole thing. They said that the masjid is not the integral part of the religion. Have they referred to the Quran or Hadith or any other thing? While referring to talaq, they would be referring to... Please, when I am saying, I will not disturb you. Please let me complete.
I'll come in.
Yeah, you will come afterwards, but don't disturb me. So what I am trying to tell you, that as far as all these things are concerned, this is for the first time we got the opportunity to say all this kind of thing. And Justice Nazir has very rightly said that even 2010 order has got this impact also. So why not first decide about it?
Tell me what you think the impact of an early judgment would mean politically.
I don't want to discuss politics. I am here.
It is all about politics.
I am not talking about the politics. I am talking about my fundamental right. I am talking about my fundamental right, that whether masjid or mandir or gurdwara has got the religiosity in it or not. Tomorrow, with all my respect for the people who are the Ram Bhakt, would they say that without mandir there would not be any...
okay, look, you're talking about a matter of principle. I am talking about the sort of bigger impact this is going to have on our politics. And that's why, Mr. Dave, I'll come back to the question I first asked you. That is it possible that we are looking at a final verdict in a matter of months, or is it foolish of us to sit here and assume that, because it may take longer, maybe it takes a year?
Well, first let me say that Mr. Nigam, with great respect, is not right. I understand what the matter is. I mean, I have been a lawyer for 40 years. I don't make mistakes about these things. I know that this was not an interim order. In that sense, appeals are fixed for hearing. Issue is not that. What Mr. Nigam fails to understand is that yes, everybody was keen to hear the matter as early as possible. But the Supreme Court was not inclined, and that is why it had not fixed the matter for hearing till Dr. Swamy motioned again and again and again and again. So the matter, the very manner in which the matter was fixed is, to my mind, raises very serious question marks. Now, coming to your question, Nidhi, whether it can be heard, at an early date or not. See, the bench will have to be reconstituted because Chief Justice Mishra is retiring. So in his place, somebody will have to be nominated. Now, the effect of this order, today's order, is that the other two learned judges, Justice Bhushan and Justice Nazir, will have to continue or not. It depends on the next Honorable Chief Justice of India. because after all the Chief Justice is the master of the rolls, as has been held by Chief Justice Mishra himself again and again and again. So first the bench will have to be reconstituted, and thereafter the hearings will begin, and I think the parties will definitely take a fairly long time in having this matter heard. In between November there are 2 vacations, Diwali and then there is Christmas vacation, and of course in March the holy vacation will come. So I don't see how this matter can be decided expeditiously, and I think it will all depend on who the presiding judge is going to be. It will all depend on his approach to the matter, and I would say that perhaps some amount of I would say rethinking might take place, and I pray to God that it does, that there is no point expediting the matter in the manner in which it has been done, which is going to leave a rather bad taste in the mouth of people. I mean, everybody, I am a proud Hindu, I am a Ram Bhakt myself, but I always believe that Bhagwan Ram is a Maryada Purushottam. He would never have liked something which is to be done out of the way. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone for 14 years to jungle, nor would he have asked Sita Devi to go through fire when Dhobi made the allegations.
Some people are making the point that for us to say it's being expedited is a bit ironic given the decades that we've all spent fighting over this, Mr. Nigam.
See, let us be very clear once again that when you are in Supreme Court, somebody loses, and in a judicial battle, in a case, somebody loses, somebody wins. It does leave a bad taste in the mouth of the one who loses, and obviously a good taste in the mouth of people who win. Therefore, somebody out will always be sad. The parties who are there, who are opposing this, will be sad if they lose, and the party who want the Ram Mandir, suppose they lose, they will be sad. So this is not a win-win situation when you are going in a court. If it had been settled in some kind of a mediation, then it could have been a win-win situation for both. One of the parties have to lose out here. So to say that it will leave a bad taste, it should not be connected to 2019 is a wrong proposition. It can come any time, and Supreme Court will do its job, and if they do it as soon as possible, it will be good for this nation.
The question is, I want to ask Aarti. Damis is not talking about that.
Sorry, Aarti. Yeah.
You know, I don't think the Supreme Court operates in a vacuum. I don't think it's an island unto itself, okay? I think the Supreme Court operates in a social, political context. And I'm sure the judges are well aware of the sensitivities of the case, the complexities. They are well aware that we are heading into election season, which could be a volatile election, and it could be made even more volatile if a judgment.
We can't second guess what the judges think.
But we have had judgments from the Supreme Court which have talked about salving a nation's conscience.
See, let me answer.
Which was not a legal argument. This was entirely a political
collective conscience
argument. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, I mean, I think the Supreme Court is very well aware of the context, and I don't know what it will finally decide.
No, but the question then, Amir Raza Hussain, quick 2 last comments. Amir Raza Hussain, the question then is, if Ram Mandir becomes front and center, and if a judgment comes, you believe clearly it will help the BJP either way, whether it goes their way or it doesn't. Does that mean that ultimately we are a very polarized electorate, that the issues that really work are the ones that polarize us, and not the sort of issues of the so-called development and the Vikas? So I've been looking for Vikas for 4 years. I haven't found him, but anyway.
I wish that was the
situation. So I mean, should we just accept that that's how we are?
For the last,
Amir Raza Hussain, yeah.
No, so for the last few years, it's very clear to everyone that we have deliberately been polarized as a nation, and this election will decide whether we are further to be polarized or not. But I just have one comment about what my friend just said about one side losing, one side winning, whether the Ram Mandir is there or whether mosque is, the Supreme Court decide. For me, I'm a Muslim. It's not, I don't win if the court decides that there is a mosque. I win if the court goes through a procedure which is transparent to the entire country. The the decision the court arrives on is completely transparent. It is to do with the law, whether it is for Muslims, whether it is for mandir, whether it is for masjid. It makes little difference to me.
Okay.
So I think this is my attitude. I don't know what everybody else's attitude is.
Quickly.
We all clear it's a title dispute. Somebody will lose a title and somebody will win it.
But it's much more than just a title dispute.
So Supreme Court says we are only dealing it as a title dispute.
They may, but it has
they have to know. They have to. Ramification is something else, and something else also.
It's the process that matters.
This is not about building the case. Is not about building the Ram temple. That's a subsequent step. It's only about first deciding the title, who owns the land, and then from there it will be taken over.
All right. Well, I will request all of you to come back from the 29th of October, because that is when the hearings are going to begin, and it will be fascinating to see what those arguments are in court at that time. Thank you for joining us tonight.